Okay, I need you to put a pin in a very specific date with me right now. January 8th, 2026. Because according to all the sources we've been combing through, this is the date. This is a massive, an undeniable pattern interrupt for the future of knowledge work.
And it's happening in just about the highest stakes environment you can imagine.
Most change resistant, too. Global medicine.
It's what's so fascinating here. We spent years, talking about AI sort of slowly creeping into different industries.
Right, integrating bit by bit.
Exactly. But today is different. Today, OpenAI just dropped its custom platform, OpenAI for healthcare. And for those of you who really follow these milestones, the model number, that alone tells the whole story.
GPT-5.2?
GPT-5.2.
Yeah.
This is the large-scale, high-stakes rollout. That number, it isn't just an incremental update. It signals a fundamental leap that has basically forced immediate adoption.
5.2.
Yeah.
You have to understand, this move is them swinging a wrecking ball at the fortress door of the modern hospital.
That's a good way to put it.
Right. So the mission for us and for you is to unpack how this new, let's call it superintelligence, isn't just entering the arena, it's already transforming the entire patient care pipeline.
And we're talking about an industry where, famously, fax machines are still a thing.
They still use fax machines. So the question is how? How did they get the world's most skeptical, bureaucracy-laden institutions to finally ditch the analog and plug in a cutting-edge AI?
Well, that skepticism is entirely warranted. It's necessary.
Of course.
We've all seen the data. Hospitals, especially the big legacy systems, they're running on infrastructure that sometimes feels like it's stuck in 1998.
Yeah.
And powerful LLMs, they've been available for a year or two already, so why now? Why is this mission-critical integration happening right now?
Exactly. We've had these incredibly smart models for a while, but they couldn't get anywhere near sensitive environments like this.
No chance.
They were just too generic, too messy. They didn't have the legal and technical guardrails.
And that's the key. The breakthrough wasn't just raw intelligence. The critical piece, the foundation, was resolving trust and compliance. The sources all emphasize that the challenge wasn't making the AI smarter. It was about making it satisfy these non-negotiable legal requirements.
Right, to get from the research lab to the actual hospital floor.
That's the gap they had to cross. And to do it, OpenAI had to finally and completely crack the hypercode.
Okay, let's dig into the nuts and bolts of that. Because when we say cracking the hypercode, especially in the US, we're not just talking about, strong encryption.
No, it's so much more than that.
We're talking about a full legal and technical infrastructure that guarantees patient privacy under the absolute strictest federal guidelines.
That's the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act.
Right. And this is the difference between an AI that can write a blog post and one that's allowed to read your medical chart.
Precisely. And it required two major components to get there. First, these really specific, high-level legal agreements.
BAAs.
Full BAAs, yes. Business Associate Agreements.
Yeah.
For anyone listening who isn't familiar with this, a BAA legally forces a third-party vendor, like OpenAI in this case, to handle patient data with the same rigorous care and liability as the hospital itself.
Wait, let's just pause on that liability point for a second. That is a massive institutional commitment.
And it's huge.
It exposes OpenAI to, unprecedented financial and legal risk if something goes wrong, a data breach, a privacy failure. How did they manage to absorb that kind of shared liability?
Well, the sources suggest it was the only way in. It was the price of admission.
The table stakes.
Exactly. The BEA means they aren't just selling a piece of software. They're becoming a legal partner in the fiduciary duty of care. And that shared liability signal, that's what moved this whole conversation from, a tech curiosity to a legally viable platform.
Because if they fail on security,
they pay the penalty.
Yeah.
Right alongside the hospital. That commitment alone is what convinced the early adopters that they were serious.
Okay, so the legal framework is locked in. What about the actual technology that enforces that security?
That's the second critical piece. The stringent data residency requirements.
Right.
The sources really stress this part. Sensitive patient data isn't just floating out on some giant public cloud server with everyone's emails and vacation photos.
No.
This platform demands that all protected health information, or PHI, has to be stored and processed in these very specific, localized, and isolated environments.
Can you help translate that a bit? What's
a vault? And that isolation is essential. It prevents unauthorized access, and it ensures that the security controls meet every single jurisdictional rule for protecting medical records. It's the difference between a prototype and a hardened operational system you'd put in an ICU.
Got it.
So without both of those things, the full BAA and the defined data residency GPT-5.2 would still be on the sidelines, no matter how smart it is.
So the infrastructure enabled the intelligence. They solved security. But security alone can't explain the speed of deployment we're seeing.
No, it can't.
Doctors, especially specialists, they are trained to be skeptical of any information that doesn't have a clear source, a pedigree. So even with legal solved, they'd never trust the output until the deeper problem was fixed.
Verification.
Verification. And that brings us to the second breakthrough. And this is where it gets really interesting.
This would be the killer feature, the thing that moves the model into the realm of verifiable decision support.
And what the sources are all calling it is?
Citations.
Citations. It sounds so simple. But it's not. When you think of a normal LLM, you think of a confident, fluent answer that might be, well, completely made up.
The hallucinations.
The dreaded hallucinations, exactly. GPT 5.2 changes that fundamental relationship with truth. And in a medical context, that's nothing short of revolutionary.
Absolutely. This is the mechanism that elevates it beyond just being a smart chatbot. The key is how it works. The AI doesn't just synthesize what it knows and then, guess at an answer.
Right.
It pulls directly from millions of peer-reviewed journals, from registered clinical trials, from authenticated medical databases, and crucially, when it provides an answer, it literally points to this study.
So you're not just taking its word for it. You're being handed the receipt for every single claim it makes.
The verifiable truth. No more plausible-sounding fabrications.
And the deep dive here reveals it's not just any citation, right? The system is more sophisticated than that.
That's right. The sources indicate it applies a weighted score to the evidence it finds. It's not going to prioritize some obscure case study from 1985.
So it knows the difference between good evidence and bad evidence.
It's designed to surface the most relevant, highest quality evidence.
So walk us through that. What does a high-quality citation even look like in this context?
Well, it's a pretty standard clinical hierarchy. It's going to prioritize meta-analyses first.
Studies of other studies.
Right. Studies that combine the results from multiple high-quality randomized controlled trials. Then it prioritizes the randomized controlled trials themselves. This weighting ensures that the insights it offers are grounded in the strongest possible evidence. It reflects current best practice, not just something it found in the deep archives.
And that is the fundamental difference.
Yeah.
That's what makes it a clinical tool, not just a research tool. You've hit on the core issue. Utility versus liability.
Mm-hmm.
In medicine, any unverifiable output is a complete non-starter. If a model suggests its treatment and the doctor can't trace it back to a specific published paper,
They can't use it. The risk is just far too immense.
but by providing these weighted high-quality citations, the whole liability profile changes.
It transforms it. It allows the practitioner, the human who has the ultimate responsibility, to quickly and efficiently check the work.
So if the AI messes up, misreads a stat, or misinterprets a trial,
The human can catch it instantly. By looking at the source it cited, it's an error mitigation system built right into its core function. It shifts the AI from being a black box to a transparent, auditable assistant.
the sources have this beautiful line for it. They say it's like having a resident who memorized PubMed and isn't sleep deprived.
That's a great analogy.
For those who don't know, PubMed has, tens of millions of biomedical citations? It's the definitive knowledge base. No human can possibly hold all that in their head.
And that analogy is so powerful because it hits on both speed and error reduction.
Right.
This tech doesn't just give you a summary. It cross-references a specific patient's unique data against the entirety of validated medical knowledge in real time.
It gives you the insight.
And it hands you the key to validate it, the citation.
And that transparency, that verifiability, that's what seems to have spurred this immediate rapid adoption we're seeing. This isn't a pilot program anymore.
No, this is deployed. The sources are very clear. This technology is not theoretical. It is live. It's operational right now.
And that's maybe the most compelling part of this whole deep dive. It's not one brave hospital trying something new.
Not at all.
If you look at the list of institutions and our sources that are already on the GPT 5.2 platform, we are talking about heavy hitters, the ones that set global standards.
Boston Children's Hospital.
Stanford Medicine.
And Cedars-Sinai. These are not small players.
Yeah.
These are major research and patient care organizations. Their adoption is the definitive signal that the compliance, security, and verification hurdles have been cleared.
It implies the transition went from impossible to mandatory almost overnight.
The competitive pressure from this kind of efficiency would be enormous.
And that level of mass adoption must be driven by some desperate, palpable need, something that overrides their usual conservatism.
Oh, for sure.
And our sources all point to one core benefit that's driving this: the potential for the admin work nightmare to finally be over.
That's the day-to-day impact. The truth is, physicians spend a massive, just an unsustainable amount of time on bureaucratic tasks.
Things that pull them away from actually seeing patients.
Actively pull them away. We're talking hours every single day spent on things like generating complex documentation.
Can you give us some visceral examples? What does that admin work nightmare actually look like for a doctor?
Okay, think about prior authorization forms.
Getting insurance approved.
Right, just to perform a necessary procedure. These forms often require synthesizing a patient's entire history and then cross-referencing it against these very specific, constantly changing insurance criteria.
And it all needs justification.
With explicit citations.
No.
Or think about synthesizing records from 6 different EMR systems when a new patient comes in. Or drafting a complex referral letter to a specialist. This work is intellectually draining, it's slow, and it's prone to error just from sheer exhaustion.
That's the friction. That is what causes burnout, slows down appointments, and at the end of the day, hurts patient care. So when you have a secure, verifiable AI that can take a patient's 10-year medical history, check it against the latest clinical guidelines, and draft a justification memo that cites 50 peer-reviewed papers.
And do it all in minutes, not hours.
It's not just an improvement, it's a profound operational leap. It accelerates the entire healthcare pipeline.
It lifts the doctor practice at the top of their license.
What does that mean?
It means they can focus on the things only a human can do. By automating the bulk of the evidence gathering and the administrative burden, you improve workflow, you reduce errors from fatigue, and you should, theoretically, increase the quality and speed of care.
So more time with the patient.
More productive time with the patient and less time wrestling with paperwork.
So if we zoom out, what does this all mean for us, for you listening, and for knowledge work in general? The deployment of GPT-5.2 in healthcare seems like a genuine turning point, a true pattern interrupt on January 8th, 2026.
I think it is. We've covered the 3 key breakthroughs that made this happen. First, the new compliance standards. Cracking IMPO with the BAAs and data residency, that made it secure.
They solved the legal barrier.
Second, the raw power of the GPT 5.2 model delivered the intelligence. And third, the verifiability through those weighted citations. That provided the trust.
Right.
This isn't AI generating creative ideas. This is AI establishing medical fact.
And when we look at that immediate impact, the end of the admin work nightmare, the automation of research, it raises a really important, maybe a provocative question for you to consider as this scales.
If the machine handles the complexity of the data, the research, the compliance,
All of it.
then the human is necessarily left with the complexity of the person.
Exactly. If GPT 5.2 is handling the entire evidence-based argument, what does that mean for the future role of the physician? Will their focus shift almost entirely to the human element of care?
To connection, empathy, communication.
And mastering that crucial bedside manner that no AI can replicate. If the resident has memorized PubMed, maybe the doctor needs to focus on truly memorizing the patient. Something for you to mull over as this new chapter of high-stakes AI medicine unfolds.